So first of all, if you guys could just introduce yourselves for the purposes of the video, we'll throw a little name card up under you, and just what your position is.
Sure thing. Hi guys, I am Malik Forté, and I am one of the hosts of the Overwatch League.
Hi guys, I am Christopher Michael Puckett. I am also one of the hosts of the Overwatch League.
Hey, I am Mitch Leslie. I am one of the commentators on the Overwatch League.
Hi, I am Soe Gschwind-Penski, and I'm one of the analysts of the Overwatch League.
It's with the G.
Gschwind.
And you don't have to use my middle name, I was just kidding.
These lower thirds, like...
Just gonna cover everybody else's name. I love it. All right, so unlike the players who have to grind over the off season and keep up with what's going on in Overwatch League, you guys don't really have to do that. So tell me, what did you do during your off season?
I played more Overwatch in the off season than I have leading up to our inaugural season. It was kind of insane. Put a lot of time into the ladder, playing a lot of heroes that I haven't in the past, just to get to know the game a little bit better. Then I traveled a lot. I vacationed. I came back and I played more video games.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time playing as well. I just feel like at the end of the season, how do I say this? I wasn't satisfied. Like, I wanted to play more. I just needed more, so I spent a lot of time playing Overwatch. But aside from that, I was working on music. I kind of live a double life because I leave here and then I go and I work in the studio, and I work in the music realm, so I spend a lot of time doing that. And then also we had like Overwatch World Cup happening in the off season and BlizzCon, so I was traveling the world and having a good time watching a lot of the pros do their thing. So that was me.
Well, pretty much same as those two guys. I've been working on the Overwatch World Cup, traveling the world. BlizzCon was a highlight as well. I've been working, other than that, at the Blizzard office every day because I'm a full-time employee. Therefore, I have to show up at the office. And I duo queued with this guy who's leaving me hanging. I'm gonna
sorry. I was giggling.
Yeah, no, we did
full-time jobs.
Fantastic. We climbed and dropped together. It was tragic and beautiful at the same time, really.
We're golden. Hang out with us.
We're golden, literally. Yeah, other than that, I took a few days off also to visit family in Europe. Been working other than that.
Yeah, I mean, I played a bunch. I finally made Masters again for the second time in 2 years, and now I'm hard start diamond again. So hold your applause. Yeah. So that was fun. I don't know, we say that obviously players grind and they do. I think a lot of us do as well. I think a lot of us are probably a little bit more modest about it because we had so many new players coming into the league, and also during the time of the off season, Contenders was running on all cylinders, South America, in China, in Korea, in EU, in the US. So we're stretched over 6 different times.
Runaway won twice in the off season, twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Vancouver Titans, check them out.
We are trying to cover that stuff because we knew we didn't know if all those players were going to get picked up, but we knew that some would be, and it would be much easier for us to just to see it as it happened instead of going back and trying to sort of retroactively study up on these players. So we were constantly our little our Skype group or whatever, and we're talking in is constantly pinging at 3 a.m. because people are staying up and watching Contenders in Korea, which was probably one of the most important competitions in the off season. So I think a lot of us really try and equal the effort that players put into being good at the game as we do being good on broadcast, because I think that's the best way that we can at least have peace of mind knowing that we are doing our bit to do their commitment justice, I guess, on air.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you think about esports or competitive gaming and how it's been. It used to be a little bit more low-key grassroots, and now we've reached this professional level where all these players get paid and they're working for these different organizations. So for us, we want to be just as professional too. So we put in the time and the effort to do so.
We've got to match the contribution,
I've also mastered how to grill a ribeye. So that was my real off-season contribution, eating steaks while watching Overwatch.
Nice.
Right on. So as the broadcast talent, you guys are the most visible members of the Overwatch League team. And as we know, social media never sleeps. So can you tell me a little bit about what your fan interactions have been like over the last few months? And are people pumping you for, inside information and stuff?
Always. People always want to know if you're going to leak something or share a little too many details, especially in streaming. I think all of us experimented a little bit with streaming in the off season. season, and a lot of times we'd have a bunch of people come in, dump a bunch of subs, and then ask a hard question. Say, I appreciate your gift, but I can't answer that question. I can't give up any of the details that the teams may want to be keeping secret, or stuff that has not been published yet by the league. But the interaction with the fans has never stopped. It's like I'm still doing a broadcast every day. Everyone has been hungry for Overwatch in the off season. People are still getting really pumped up to watch their teams, especially a lot of the new teams. We have 8 new squads coming in, 8 new cities being represented, and I know that fans in Atlanta or Toronto, for example, are really fired up to watch their teams for the first time.
I don't know. I definitely get quieter in the off season in terms of my social media interaction, because I'm definitely trying to take a step back, focus a little bit more on myself. I think the spike in activity was me bragging about being in Australia, so I was just like beach photo, sunset photo, wine photo, barbecue photo. But fans, obviously, we have our own, often I have our own Discord channels and stuff like that, and our stream communities that we sort of build up almost separately to our casting, I think. And obviously, I've just gotten asked for power rankings every day the last few months. I'm just like, I can't give you a power ranking now because it's influenced by too much insider information, and it just won't make sense, and I can't explain it to you because I would have to give away said inside information. So, we're in a position where obviously our fans want to, interact with us as well, and we need to sort of find a balance also between being able to sort of make that a gratifying experience for them and sort of be authentic with our fans, while also making sure that we don't divulge information that we're not at liberty to do.
Shanghai top 10 this year?
Yes!
All right! Hey, we got one out of them.
I think they are, yes.
It was easier than I thought after that speech, but okay.
I feel like with a lot of the interactions I had during the off season, I was trying to get people to be a little bit more well-rounded, because I feel like we spend so much time on Overwatch and in this scene. It's okay to check out a sporting event, an actual sporting event, so you can make a contrast between what esports and an actual sporting event is. And so it was kind of cool seeing people kind of step outside of the realm of just what they're used to and what they're comfortable with. And that was something that I noticed talking to fans. They were like, "Oh yeah, I actually went to a basketball game. It was really cool." I'm like, "Yeah,
you should have done that years ago."
I'm glad esports was a gateway to actual sports for me. That's pretty cool.
I'm a Saints fan, so I don't want to talk to anyone about football at the moment. I'm pretty sure to leave that in the dust until next season.
Cowboys.
Right on. So this year we have new broadcast deals and stuff I guess kind of new now. They were for the finals and stuff, but the broadcast deals, we have more bigger publications here, checking things out. With that increased level of coverage and more mainstream media eye on you, does that change your approach to how you do your job at all? And how do you bridge the gap between talking to the newer audiences and giving the detail required and craved by the longtime fans?
I think, go ahead, Soe.
Well, it's obviously a fine line to walk, because people who are very familiar with esports and the game, they don't want to be talked down to. They want that inside scoop. They want all that specific lingo and the deep dive into what we're seeing on a statistic and analytical standpoint. Whereas a new viewer, that would be an overload of information. They
just lose them, right?
You instantly lose them. So we have to walk a very fine line where we kind of try to cater to both of them, which does require for all of us to adjust a little bit, because we're all been in esports for a very long time, and back then we never had to worry about that thing, because we knew our audience is always going to be the hardcore audience, so we can go as in-depth as we want and it will always be fine. Everyone will understand it, or at least pretends to understand it. Now with all that coverage, that puts us a little bit more on a different kind of page.
Absolutely. I think that the challenge is just to make the information relevant but accessible to everybody. I think it is completely doable. There might be some fans sort of from a more hardcore sort of group that might feel a little bit alienated by that and maybe hey, this is not what I'm used to, but I guess our hope is that they'll stick with us and understand that we're really trying to serve as many people as we can and make this accessible.
I'll tell you what doesn't change though, the fact that we're having the time of our lives and we're having fun. The fun never changes, it never stops at any time.
I like that. Personally, a goal for me was, majority of our players in Overwatch are below Diamond, and I felt a lot of the time in our shows last year we were speaking to the higher level of players in the community. I think we will continue doing that, absolutely, and we're going to have some great slow-mos and breakdowns of some of the most complicated plays you've seen in Overwatch, but we also need to speak to the newer fans, maybe people who have never picked up the game, and I'm excited about that because this is our opportunity to show what we love to the largest audience yet, and I think we're going to hopefully convert a lot of people to not only watch this game that they love, but also get their hands on it and try it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that might be it. Like, there might be some people who, so only played Overwatch and never really followed esports at all and then get into the Overwatch League, and then vice versa. There might be ways that the Overwatch League can be a pathway for people into games and esports, by making it something that they can relate to even if they're not a hardcore gamer. So, I think a vast majority of our audience will fall outside of that sort of Diamond Masters and up sort of bracket. I don't know, we kind of want to resonate with everyone with what we do and try and be authentic in how we carry ourselves on the broadcast.
For a little more in-depth of a question here, I want to talk about Contenders for a moment. We have a lot of Contenders talent coming in for this season. How do you feel like their success or lack thereof will affect the perception of Contenders and potentially fans of subsequent seasons?
I think, go ahead, Vancouver Titans for me, they're just proof that the Contenders talent is real. It's made up purely of Runaway, basically, a bunch of rock stars over in South Korea who have been dominating since the Apex days. I think they're finally in the league. People have been looking for this moment, and you talk to people like Bare Hands, the assistant GM of the Florida Mayhem. He's been watching a lot of Contenders. He's been over in South Korea and looking at the talent there. His team even boot camped with some Contenders and Overwatch League players. So I think a lot of the GMs, the head coaches have been paying very close attention to the Contender scene, and that's where some of the best talent is going to be coming from here in 2019.
Yeah. And I think one thing people should remember is Contenders and OWL, they're completely different in the sense that the infrastructure is different. Mitch actually touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think like when you're playing for these organizations and they have like different coaches for different positions, and you have some teams that have like nutritionists, and it's a complete lifestyle change playing in the Overwatch League, and then actually getting out there on that stage is a completely different ball game. So I think a lot of the Contenders players who have played in front of crowds and whatnot might not be accustomed to that that infrastructure, and that's going to be the one thing I think that's going to be different for them. From a competition standpoint, I kind of feel like a lot of the Contenders players may be coming in with a little bit of an advantage because they played on these heavy tank metas for a while. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're at any disadvantage.
Pretty prepared.
I think that they will almost lead the way with some of like the GOATs or the tank-centric compositions that we see. But I think that the proof's in the pudding in terms of the efficacy or effectiveness of Contenders as a model when so many players are brought up from them, whether it's the Contenders ecosystem in South Korea and also in Europe. You see that Paris Eternal has supplemented their entire lineup with players from this particular region. It's not supposed to be a mini owl. There was never sort of the plan. You were supposed to form a path to pro, and I think that that has been self-evident in the way that these players have sort of transitioned. Is it perfect? Maybe not. I can't really speak on behalf of Blizzard in this regard, but I'm really results-based in my assessment of how effective something like Contenders is, and as I said, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
And we got to see during the World Cup a lot of those Contenders players playing with Overwatch League players, and it was like there was no skill gap at all. They meshed together very well. So.
No, and honestly, all those Contenders players, they are coming in so hungry. They are so eager. They are the ones who are grinding the most at the moment because they want to show that they belong here. They want to show that it was right for those teams to pick them up and put them on that big stage. And that's why I do feel like a lot of those Contenders players might even outperform the old dogs on that stage because they will just go the extra mile and put in that
Joe
extra
Nark didn't even play in Contenders. He came straight off the ladder, you know what I mean? And so he had ostensibly even less of like that institutionalized development as an individual and still dominated. So
Yeah, excellent. All right, last question for you guys. So the two top teams of last year, Philadelphia and London, were a completely integrated team and an all-Korean roster, respectively. What do you think that means for the global nature of this game and the perceived skill gap between Koreans and basically every other region?
I think Overwatch League is... I think because of Overwatch League, that skill gap has decreased by a very large margin, because here everyone is in the same environment. We have the same kind of hard or not hard practice schedules, match schedules. Everyone has to play the same amount of games. Everyone has the same hours almost, depending on their internal structure, but roughly I would say it's the same thing.
Sure.
And I really think that has changed that big skill gap which was there before, because Korean players they practiced more, they played more. Everything was more structured than, let's say, in Europe. So now that everyone is playing under the same circumstances, I do feel like there is not such a big difference anymore within OWL itself.
I think that the Overwatch League is a great way to showcase how teams can develop with a strong coaching staff around them. And I think that teams like the Boston Uprising and definitely Philly are teams that we really saw coaching prowess manifest in their results and in their performance. I think, some teams all lived together in the same house, some had their own apartments, like everyone had a different sort of, setup, but everyone had the same opportunity here in LA to establish their infrastructure and their environment. And I think that it's an excellent incubator for talent. And I think it's something that was not really present in the West so much as it was in South Korea, for example, where it was very much accepted that, these players would go and join these team houses and there was a very high standard expected. That standard now I think is higher than it was before, but everyone has that standard, applied to them. The benchmark is now no longer regional, but it's, are you in the Overwatch League? Then here's what is expected of you. Here's the level of performance. Here's the level of commitment, time you're expected to invest into improving yourself as a player.
I'd say it comes down to the old saying, you can't get better without playing the best. And at the Overwatch League, we have the best of the best from around the world. This is where you're going to get your best practice. All the teams have their favorite scrim partners, and I think that is what has closed the gap. We're all here. Everybody is in the same place, the same city, and we're here from February to September. So even some of the new guys who haven't had the opportunity to play the best yet, look for them to develop as the season goes on.
Right. I just feel like those two teams you mentioned that were in the finals last year both had situations that reflected positively on their mental fortitude. They were able to have a great mindset going into the playoffs, and eventually that proved to be, very important for both of those teams. And we'll see this season, all the teams that have situations that, put the players at ease where they can focus on their game, they can focus on getting better, they can focus on their strategies, they can just focus on being the best they can be. Those are going to be the teams we see rise to the top of the pack when it's all said and done.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.